name is Justin Solomon. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science and a member of CSAIL, the Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. I lead the Geometric Data Processing Group. So currently that's about 2 graduate students and a postdoc, and we're expanding quite a bit. So in the fall this year, we'll be up to about 10 group members, which is a big group of students interested in math and computer science, all these different areas, focusing on problems in geometry. So we do research in this area. I also do a lot of teaching related to geometry, computer graphics, numerical methods, all these sorts of things. We work on all kinds of things from the very low level to the very high level. So on the low level, working on sort of geometric tools for engineers, things like surface parameterization and meshing and things. There's a tool called finite elements that's used a lot in simulation of physical phenomena, and it's very important in the engineering pipeline, right? How can I predict how my car works before I want to actually build it, right? And so we come up with some of the geometric tools that go into software for that. And then on the very high level, we work on problems like shape recognition and object recognition, and how can I find interesting features on 3D shapes, for instance, and compare them to other ones. So these problems appear in the worlds of medical imaging, computer graphics, and so on, right? Maybe I've painstakingly labeled one shape, like a human brain, and now I have a new one, and I'd like to transfer this information from one object to the other, right? And coming up with automatic tools to do that really has to combine expertise from geometry, from machine learning, from sort of the underlying mathematics, and it's really the intersection of that really gets us excited. Our group is a really fun group to work with. Essentially, from my perspective, geometry problems appear all over the place, right? And so we have collaborators in areas from, computer graphics. I actually used to work at the Pixar Animation Studios, to things like transportation, logistics, supply chain, to just pure number crunching, simulation. And in each of these cases, the really exciting and interesting theme that we discover is that although the context is very different, the underlying theme in mathematics is very similar, right? These ideas of shape and structure and distance and similarity and dissimilarity show up all over the place. And so each of my students has a collaborator in a different field and has a different background, and we sort of tailor our research projects to that. So for instance, I have one student who comes from the robotics world, and he's working a lot with robotic equipment and path planning and these sorts of things. And I have another student coming in from a pure math background, and a third one that works on self-driving cars. And in each case, the really exciting thing in our group is to bring all of these different people together and see what ideas and projects come out. And the long-term goal for us is really to view geometry as a fundamental piece of the computational toolbox, right? The same way that right now computers are really good at understanding data points and numbers and individual kind of discrete pieces of information. Really, we're focused on how can we develop tools for people when the unknown object they're trying to compute in a piece of software is a shape or is some piece of geometry. And this is basically an unexplored problem. This is something we're really excited about. In the computer graphics animation world, a problem that we study quite a bit is how can you go from just a 3D scan of an object to a nice, watertight, smooth, well-behaved shape to something somebody can actually animate, right? I tug on the hand of a 3D model and I want to know how the entire object moves or responds, from this one piece of input about where I'd like to pose it or have it move. In the world of supply chain, some problems that we work on quite a bit come from this world of what we call optimal transportation. So these problems are all about, let's say I'm running a big company and I have a bunch of supply and some parts of a road network and then demand. Like I'm running a gas station, I have refineries and I have gas stations. And what I'm trying to do is optimize for how to match from the supply to the demand while minimizing costs for my company, right? And so this is all about how can I sort of, I know how much comes out of every source and how much every target needs, and I need to, minimize the amount of distance that all of my stuff travels, right? And so in that case, these problems have been explored for centuries, right? I mean, they date back to 17th century mathematics, but really the perspective that we have is that the structure and the challenges that arise are completely different in the context of road networks with millions of roads and millions of cars, in the context of companies and supply chain networks that are insanely complicated. So these are 2 examples of big problems that appear in our world. Other collaborators we have are in worlds like medical imaging, right? So, for instance, understanding MRI data. Can I automatically label and understand the folds in one subject's brain? And then now I'm given a new subject who I don't know anything about, but I do have the shape of their brain, and I'd like to transfer information from one object that I've studied very carefully to a new one that I just scanned, right? And so the machinery for that is all about how do you infer what structure is in common from one, in this case, really piece of geometry, right? Like the 3D shape of your brain, and transfer what I know onto something completely new.